that Justin Bieber got by Diddy.
It's not our fault that Usher
It
didn't
is
want to get
not
fucked by
the point.
Diddy
It's not the
anymore.
point, bro. Like, it's
It is
the
not
point,
our
bro.
fault that Usher didn't want to
Like,
get fucked
that
by
nigga
Diddy
wants
no
to be
more.
rich.
Don't hit me no more. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. All you heard was Papa, don't hit me no more. Let's go. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. Hey, hey, hey.
It was hard. That word.
Okay, let's dive in. We hear a lot about mentorship in entertainment, right? Established stars guiding the young ones.
Yeah, it's like the classic story.
Exactly. But what happens when, new information comes out? Or just new perspectives? And suddenly those relationships look really different.
Especially when serious allegations start swirling around, it forces you to look back.
Right, you start re-examining things, maybe seeing power dynamics that weren't obvious before or were kind of hidden.
That's definitely happening now. Relationships once painted as simple mentorships, they're getting a second look, a much closer look.
And that's what we're doing today. We're digging into the materials you sent over, looking at the tangled histories of Usher, Diddy, and Justin Bieber.
The goal is really to pull out the key moments, the insights from this material, so you can get a handle on the complexities behind the headlines.
It's like a shortcut to understanding the layers, the shifting power dynamics in the music industry right now.
We're looking at how these connections evolved and what they might tell us now under this current spotlight.
So, to really get it, we have to start with Usher's early days. The material points to a really pivotal moment with Diddy.
Yeah, this is pretty striking. L.A. Reid apparently sees potential in Usher, who's only 13.
13?
Yeah, and sends him to New York City to live with Diddy for a year.
Wow. Sending a 13-year-old into that kind of environment, entrusted to someone else. The material calls it Puffy Flavor Camp, right?
Flavor camp, yeah. The idea apparently was for him to learn some flavor.
Okay, Flavor Camp.
Hmm.
But the environment described, it sounds, intense, especially for a teenager.
Definitely. He talks about going to these big New York clubs, Club USA, Supper Club, The Tunnel, with Puffy.
But here's the thing Usher emphasizes, right? He wasn't there just to party. That wasn't his goal.
Exactly. He keeps saying, I was there for a career. He wanted to work. He wasn't interested in just soaking up the lifestyle.
He wanted studio time, pushing for it.
And what was he seeing during this time? The accounts are pretty direct. Usher mentions being around grown women, seeing very curious things he didn't really get.
He called it pretty wild. Said he saw the lifestyle, but didn't know if he could, indulge or even understand it. Not exactly a typical scene for a 13-year-old.
No. And when asked point blank if women, tried to, his answer is careful, right? He just repeats that very curious things were happening.
And he apparently clashed with Diddy because of this difference in focus. He says they'd fight, they'd tussle.
Because Diddy apparently told him he was too intense, needed to chill.
But Usher sounds like he was driven. He was like, I'm here to work, man. He's banging on Diddy's door. You got Biggie Smalls in there, Craig Mack. Make me a priority too.
He even points out how weird it was. I'm too young to even be in here while you got me in clubs.
It really highlights this mismatch. The kid wants artistic growth.
Yeah.
The mentor seems focused on the lifestyle, the scene.
Makes you question the whole point of Flavor Camp. Was it really about development? Or something else?
But despite all that weirdness and tension, Usher did learn things. He talks about being around successful people. Mary J. Blige, Missy Elliott, Timbaland.
Right, just absorbing it all. He saw a glimpse of the lifestyle, what success looked like. So there were takeaways.
So yeah, maybe some exposure to the good side, the creative side. But still, the material really pushes this question. Was Diddy genuinely mentoring? Or was he looking for someone to, shape, control, and use?
And that early relationship is now being seen, as it says, under a different light. It sets the stage.
And there's that one telling detail. Usher was asked if he'd send his own kid to a Puffy camp now.
And his answer, hell no.
Yeah, that says a lot, looking back as a parent.
So this complicated start seems to flow right into the next chapter, the connection to Justin Bieber.
Right, Bieber's early days, his exposure to Diddy. He apparently called him Big Brother Puff.
And there's that anecdote about Diddy maybe getting Bieber a Lamborghini after buying his own son a Bentley. Bieber admits he hadn't gotten it yet, though.
A small detail, maybe, but it shows Diddy was definitely in the picture, had that kind of influence.
And apparently, Diddy wasn't thrilled when Bieber talked publicly about what they did together. Reportedly told him he knows better than to talk about things with Big Brother Puff on TV. Suggest wanting control over the narrative.
Okay, but here's where the material offers a really different angle. It suggests that he didn't just, pass Bieber off to Usher.
No, the perspective presented is that Usher taking over management, even guardianship, was actually a strategic move by Diddy.
Strategic? How so?
The argument is that putting Usher in charge allowed Diddy to stay close, keep his influence, without being the main guy out front. It was about Diddy's control and access. Usher was maybe a way to stay involved.
That framing. Wow. And it's backed up by a really disturbing detail mentioned about what happened after Usher got custody.
Yeah, this is unsettling. It's recounted that Usher got custody and then sent Bieber to this place called the Deadler for 48 hours.
And this was apparently after Bieber had already allegedly been to the hospital for some reason?
That's the connection made. The material questions it heavily why take him there, especially after promising to look after him. If he'd already needed medical attention potentially related to concerning behavior from Diddy.
The implication is pretty dark. It suggests Usher getting custody wasn't just about protecting Bieber. If he then sent him somewhere potentially harmful, it asks, does that sound like a good guy?
It definitely casts a shadow over Usher's role and intentions during that period, especially knowing what's alleged about Diddy now.
It really makes you rethink that whole narrative.
Absolutely. And then you look at Bieber's recent actions, which the material highlights as significant. His silence.
Loud silence, as they put it. He's apparently gradually created space.
Yeah, specific things like unfollowing Usher sometime in 2023 or 2024, stopping going to Diddy's events, and then turning down the Super Bowl halftime show invite from Usher.
That Super Bowl one is big. Declining that suggests more than just scheduling conflicts.
The argument is his actions speak volumes. That maybe this quiet retreat is his way of breaking from a cycle, distancing himself from that whole environment linked to Diddy.
And maybe Usher represents part of that environment, that history, for him.
Could be. Usher himself is described as being careful, almost diplomatic, about Bieber declining, saying maybe the timing wasn't right.
But the actions, as presented here, seem to tell a different story.
Right. And this isn't just about these three figures. The material brings up other serious claims, disturbing anecdotes that paint a broader picture of the industry environment, particularly around Diddy.
This is the bigger picture stuff. Some really troubling accounts.
One of the most prominent is the alleged incident from Cassie's lawsuit. Diddy allegedly punching her at a dinner.
Usher, Neo, and Jimmy Iovine were supposedly there.
That's the allegation, and the key point emphasizes that they apparently did nothing to stop it. Didn't intervene.
The interpretation offered is that this shows the kind of power, maybe mental control, Diddy had over people. It's presented as shocking that they wouldn't step in.
Yeah, a real indicator of the alleged fear or control in that environment.
The material also mentions other troubling stories circulating, like one from Harlem music executives.
About Diddy allegedly sending this little kid to the hospital because of bleeding. Related to potential assault.
It's presented as something industry insiders were talking about, raising concerns about vulnerable young people around Diddy. And it possibly links back to that mention of Bieber having been in the hospital.
It's deeply disturbing stuff. And then there's the whole dynamic with Diddy's mother, described as very complex, very unusual.
Right, the allegations about her modeling agency being some kind of prostitution ring, the source saying the apple don't fall far from the tree.
And Diddy himself reportedly talking about his mother's physical traits in a way described as sexual, mentioning her flexibility, touching her palms to the floor.
The material asks, who describes their mother like that? And finds it weird he allegedly kisses her on the mouth as an adult.
It leads them to float the theory of an Oedipus complex, referencing Freud, suggesting maybe an unusually intense psychological bond.
Based on these observations, like her allegedly wearing the same white nail polish Diddy liked on Cassie and other models, or them allegedly getting IV drips together after parties, it just paints a very strange picture.
And adding another layer are personal stories from the speaker, Gene Deal. He talks about confronting Diddy about disrespecting his mother.
Claiming Diddy even slapped her once, according to someone else, and Gene Deal himself intervening when Diddy allegedly cursed her out.
Yeah, telling Diddy he'd beat the shit out of you if he did it again. It suggests a really volatile dynamic.
Gene Deal also alleges Diddy fired him, partly because his mother was making moves on him, trying to assert power or show interest in a way that made Gene uncomfortable and Diddy protective.
These are, very personal, kind of bizarre accounts, but they add to this overall picture of the power plays and strange dynamics presented in the material surrounding Diddy.
And the suggestion is this isn't just isolated drama. It might be part of a bigger shift, what some call the slow unraveling of Hollywood Babylon.
Right, the idea that certain powerful figures operated with unchecked power for years, and now that's finally being challenged. Diddy's name keeps coming up in that context.
And this whole climate is making people rethink history, recontextualize old stories, old relationships, like Usher and Diddy's.
And we're seeing real consequences now, signs that Diddy's support structure is weakening. His top lawyer, Anthony Rico, resigned.
Called it a sign things are crumbling.
And maybe even bigger, that huge entertainment law firm Grubman Shire dropped him after decades, reportedly because big clients like Lady Gaga threatened to walk.
Wow. Losing a firm like that suggests industry support is really drying up, like the material says.
And it loops back to Usher. As people reassess Diddy, they're reassessing Usher's role too. Was he really in control back then, or was he maybe positioned, used as a middleman?
A way for Diddy to open doors, maybe, under the guise of mentorship.
The material suggests that when you trace the timeline Flavor Camp, the Bieber situation as framed, the current allegations, it's hard not to wonder if Usher was caught up in something bigger, maybe without fully realizing it.
So you're forced to reevaluate. Was he just navigating a tough system, or was he somehow instrumental in a structure that benefited someone else, a structure now under fire?
Okay, so let's pull this together. We've looked at Usher's really complicated start with Diddy, the Flavor Camp years.
Yeah, the intensity, the mismatch in focus at such a young age.
Then the strategic view presented of the Bieber connection, tied into those concerning details about custody and alleged prior harm.
And then the wider context, the serious allegations swirling, the bizarre family dynamics described, and the signs that industry power structures might be shifting.
It's about looking beyond the simple story, seeing the hidden dynamics the source material points to.
And why should you care about all this? Well, it's a glimpse into how power, fame, and mentorship can actually work, or maybe not work, in a huge industry that shapes so much of our culture.
Understanding this context changes how you might see these big names, these big events. It's about peeling back the layers, asking who really benefits, how influence works behind the curtain.
It goes beyond just celebrity gossip, into the complex, sometimes unsettling ways power can operate.
So here's something to think about. As these long-standing power structures in entertainment seem to be shaking, and people are re-examining these histories, what other stories might need a second look?
Yeah, what other simple tales of mentorship or success in the industry might look different if we apply this kind of critical lens, this kind of new perspective? What else might be hiding beneath the surface?